Hi, everybody. I want to thank everybody who followed me on this channel and who re- love what I'm doing. And I'm really happy because some people take put the comment of my videos. Some people read listen to what I'm talking about, my book. I'm really happy because of that. Today I want to read the second chapter of my book, Helada Dreams. So you can, in this chapter, maybe find something interesting with you if you ever want to read this book. Okay, I start reading my chapter. My chapter is Announced Visit. Tony poured a cup of hot coffee, sat down at the massive table in the kitchen, and gazed through the panoramic transparent wall toward the titchy black clouds on the horizon. Everything looked as if it might start the rain. The clouds were peeled up and swirled wildly. Now and then their insides would be searched by red-hot net flashes of lightning. She watched this common natural phenomenon with a lost look when the sound of the front door brought her back to reality. At first, Antonia thought that Azarian had forgotten something when she left for work half hour ago, but he had an electronic case. She certainly wouldn't have rung the bell. Antonia approached the door, touched the panel that activated transparency, and observed unknown guest. In front of the door stood a tall, beautiful brunette in the perfectly tailored black uniform. The insignia of colonel flashed on the lapel of her short military jacket. The woman held a black briefcase in her hand and calmly waited. Antonio activated the panel and the door slid silently into the side wall. Something in the flash of the colonel's dark gray eyes made her uncomfortable, and the hair of Antonio neck stood on end. The colonel's voice was quiet, but there was military discipline in it as she asked, "Miss Antonia del Sautren?" Antonia nervously tightened the belt of her silk nightgown and replied, "Yes." The colonel rested her left palm on the right side of her chest in formal greeting and stated, "I'm glad to meet you. My name is Dalia Tavingan, and I am a colonel in the army of Her Majesty Queen Santra." She paused for a moment and observed Antonia with flashing dark gray eyes. "I'm here because of your application." Antonia pushed her long blonde hair back and looked closely at her. "I'm a little confused by this situation because I expect to get an answer on my ID card." A barely perceptible twitch trembled on Dahlia's lips. "I don't think that was possible. If you allow me to enter, I will be happy to explain the reason for my visit and why we could not use the interface." Even though her behavior confused her, Antonia stepped aside and gestured toward the dining room. "You can join me. I'm drinking my morning coffee before a job." Dahlia nodded gratefully and stepped in the apartment. "It will be a pleasure for me to join you because I didn't have time to do that morning ritual." While she was sitting at the table, Antonia headed to the kitchen. "With less or more sugar?" "No sugar would suit me best." Dahlia replied, then opening her briefcase, took out a teeny gray hollow plate and placed it on the table. Antonia placed a cup of hot coffee on the table. She sat opposite her, casually looked at the dark screen of the hollow platter, and asked, "What is the real reason for your visit?" Then took a sip of coffee. Dahlia leaned her elbows on the table, folded her palms, and covered her lips with index finger. She watched her in silence for a few moments, then said, "Your marks on the test for admission to military service are above average, and we would like to offer you a contract for 5 years in the Helada unit." Natalia leaned on the chair and looked close into her piercing gray eyes. I have never heard of that. What is the purpose of Helada unit anyway? "Oh," she answered. Her Dahlia took a sip of coffee and smiled with satisfaction. "You make great coffee." She casually placed the cup on the table, activated the screen, and carefully selected one of the folders. Antonio watched her elegant fingers as they quickly flew over the long file, and she felt discomfort. She shivered at night as Dahlia looked up and spoke in serious voice. "Of course you haven't heard of that unit, as it is complete secret, and of the radar of our society. The purpose of this unit is to collect resources without which our society could not exist." Antonio straightened in the chair. "What kind of resource?" "As far as I know, our civilization has a well-developed, self-sustained system in every aspect of supplying our inhabitants. Everything we lack is solved by trading with other known civilizations with whom we have peace agreement." "I see that you are well versed in the economic situation in our universe, but I have to ask you, how well do you know the history of Mortana civilization?" Although Antonia was confused by the question, she didn't now show it with any gesture. She didn't know if it was a trick inquiry. She pursed her lips and narrowed her eyes. Of course, she knew the history of the planet and their entire space kingdom, but the real reason behind the matter worried her. After a short pause, he answered diplomatically, "I know our history. The whole system of our learning is based on knowledge of past because it teaches us not to make the mistake that our ancestors made. But what this have to do with military service? I don't understand at all. My main reason for signing up was the fight against red lily terrorists." Dahlia looked at the file, then began to tap the table with her index finger and answered, "Fighting terrorists is not focus of our military branch. We are concerned with preserving our monarchy. You know that 2,000 years ago our civilization was on the brink of destruction." When Antonia nodded, she continued, "The war with Tartan Empire, which we ended up winning, cost us a lot of more than we realized. Knowing that he was losing the war, the Tartan ruler Kalar ordered the use of the biological virus sweeper. Many of the male warriors died shortly after that final battle, and virus spread through the empire. In the end, the entire male population was reduced to only a few thousand individuals. For this reason, all of them were placed in quarantine isolated location." Dahlia ran her fingers across the whole screen and continued. "For some reason, the sweeper virus was not lethal to the woman, but its side effect was all the pregnant women aborted their male children. Since then, not a single male child has been born. Then the queen certainly issued a secret decree that only the supreme commander of the army and the highest-ranking female scientists know about. With that decree, our civilization was saved. A sperm database was created, At the same time, research began because the threat of the extinction of our species was imminent. The surviving men were aging, and a new source of male specimen had to be found urgently. She paused for a moment, took a sip of coffee and continued. What most of the population of our does not know is that we have found source of men who genetically match our population. When female scientists found the planet after 100 years of research, they formed Helada Specials Unit. The purpose of that unit is collect suitable specimens and transfer them to our main quarantine base at North Pole. Antonio watched her with wide eyes while she caught her cup with both hands. When she regained her composure, she rubbed lip and said, I only know that men existed 2,000 years ago from the pictures in encyclopedias. I never questioned the fact that we are born because I didn't think much about reproduction of our species. She paused for a moment, closed her eyes, and said, then she looked at the colonel and asked, and you think that I am fit to be Helada and that I will be able to carry out the task of collecting these men? Dahlia leaned back on the chair and crossed her arms over the chest. I wouldn't be here if I doubt that command decision. You, Miss Delsautren, are perfect for our team. All the psychological tests you took during the application, your psychical preparedness show us that. The tests took are not much different from ones I complete for the job, I said, Antonio in a calm voice. Dahlia lit the edge of her right lips and answered her with slight hint of cynicism. You're sure that is all? Then leaned toward her and stared into her eyes. We don't leave anything to chance. We carefully convey it through your entire CV. We know everything about you from the moment you were born in certain material hospital. Unpleasant tingles ran through Antonia's spine and she blushed. Antonia knew she had no secret, but she didn't like anyone digging into her past. She defiantly raised her chin and took a sip of coffee, which now seemed to her a bitter as hellebore. And what did you discover that attracted to my case? Dahlia tapped her fingers briefly on the glass of the hollow panel, then focused her attention on the test and began to read. You are born in the year 2334 of the second sonnet cycle. Your mother's name was Sinitia, and unfortunately she passed away during childbirth. Antonia didn't comment, and she started to read again. From the time you were born, the social service took care of you until you reached adulthood. As a child, you were hyperactive and difficult to control. You had quite a few repayments for your wild behavior, but how you treat other girls did not affect your grades at school. You are an excellent student. The psychological remarked that you are antisocial and that you have a hard time fitting in society. After leaving home, you changed numerous jobs as well as partners. You rarely stayed in one place for more than 6 months. When I read your file, I notice that you choose jobs far below your intellectual knowledge, and those jobs were always where you could work independently. You, Miss Antonia, are a lone wolf, and we need such a person for this special unit. There are many details that I have left out of your resume because it will take me at least half an hour to list the unsavory things that you have done in the last 20 years. The main question of all questions is why you signed up for military service considering that is a team effort. I would like to hear your explanation. Antonia blinked and crest forming between her eyebrows, sense of her fixating gaze. The countdown, she focused her attention on the window where the raindrops started gliding. Water drift left meandering trails on the surface, pouring down the glass floor. She gritted her teeth, calmed the anger that was boiling inside her, and turned to her Sir. I want to find my purpose. As you say, I don't fit anywhere. I don't know the reason for that. I feel like that I don't belong to this world. Antonia eyes flashed as she looked at Dahlia. I feel lonely even with those I love. Military service demanding, but I learn discipline at a reformatory. I want to see space and visit other planets. That was attracted me most applied to the service. And that is everything what I want to read for this time. So, if you like the story, what I'm writing, put some comments, what you think about that. Story is not edited. This is the first draft of my story, and this is very little editing I do. So if you like my story, say me what you think. If you listen to the end of the, I'm sorry for my broken English, and I'd be very grateful for any comment or any thinking about my book. And thank you because you listened it to the whole. Bye.